So we had an opportunity to speak with one of the great wrestlers of the past 2 decades, Mick Foley. He's coming into town soon, and we had an opportunity to talk to him about his current pursuits.
Yes.
And we're doing a 2-part interview. Part 1 is this week. We talk about his comedy career, which is actually catching fire, and also his publishing career. He is a New York Times best-selling author, as we well know. And next week, we will talk about his wrestling career, his thoughts on some of the big names in the professional wrestling business, and he will answer a couple of important questions. 1, will you ever wrestle again? 2, would you like to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? So why don't we get to it right now? Mick Foley, the hardcore legend, here on Inside the Squared Circle in just a moment.
Bang, bang!
That was pathetic, Brian.
What?
We're joined this week by wrestler, author, and comedian Mick Foley on Inside the Squared Circle. Mick, good to have you with us.
It's nice to be with you guys.
Okay, so Mick, how did you get involved in doing stand-up comedy, and what got you interested in it?
Well, I think it was kind of getting hooked from being in the ring and doing humorous things, usually as the commissioner of WWE, but sometimes as other characters. And then you find out that the skills are kind of translatable. Some of the things that work as far as timing and knowing how to, work a crowd, work in both pro wrestling and comedy. And I'd say that writing the book in 1999 was a big break because it made a lot of people laugh. And, you realize it's all I happen to be a storytelling type of performer. And so it's all just a different way of telling stories on different stages.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So you're not exactly Henny Youngman up there. It's not one-liner after one-liner.
No, and people are expecting. I remember people going, he didn't even tell jokes. It's like, well, if you're looking for jokes, like you can find books that have joke after joke after joke in them. I tell stories that are humorous and sometimes laugh out loud funny, and sometimes they're not meant to be funny at all. But it kind of fits under the comedy banner because it's a lot easier to put that on the show title than he tells stories that are sometimes funny.
So what are the type of stories that you're talking about? Botched up matches, things that happen on the road, insane people in the wrestling business?
All of that. A botched up match, for example, would be Hell in a Cell, like the greatest botched up match in history. And there's a lot of, even though it was a very serious match, there's a lot of humor to be found in it. I won't tell you where because then I would ruin it for the show. But
do your teeth come into play at any time?
A tooth sticking in a guy's nose and the guy rolling over and not realizing where a pair of sneakers came from. It can be unconsciousness can be funny in the right hands. So it's like it's bizarre and it's surreal. And as even a really good Edinburgh award-winning comic, which means he's one of the best in the world, Brendan Burns said, comics they'll volunteer for jury duty in the off event that something funny might happen they can talk about. In our case, we've got these incredible, diverse and strange family that we hang out with, and so the material's there every day. I mean, you travel for 27 years, you're going to have material. It's just a matter of figuring out what works and what doesn't on stage.
So, who are some of the warped personalities who may be tapped into in your comedy act?
Well, for the first time in 10 years, I'd only told this story live once in a college Q&A. It's known as the Diamond Dallas Page cookie story in my book. And I sat down on a cross-country flight, a 6-hour flight, and for about 4 of those hours, I thought, how do I make this story that was so good in the book, how do I make it work on the stage? And so I've told it once, and it was one of those things, you don't want to say, I killed if you're the guy who's killing, but all of the laughs came at the places where I hoped they would, and And I even was able to edit while I was up there and realize what may not be needed. And the challenge then is to take that story and then say, okay, that's, that worked out good. Let's do it again. The challenge is to say, how can I make it even better? So in wrestling, you do your promo and it's done. That's the way I saw it. It's done. You don't use it again. Whereas in comedy, you put something out there, you see how good it works, and then you shine it up as best you can so that maybe it's not at its best until 3-4 months down the line.
Right. When you're saying shine it up, don't stick it sideways and put it anywhere else.
No, because it's PG now.
Yes.
You can't get away with.
So you're going to be in our area at the Baltimore Comedy Factory on October 11th to do one night of stand-up. Do you typically draw a crowd exclusively of wrestling fans? Is it more broad-based than that?
It's almost exclusively wrestling fans, and those brave enough to attend with them. Like it's the very dedicated girlfriend or wife. And then they find out that they really enjoy themselves. So I got a review in Edinburgh from a non-wrestling fan reviewer. Her last line, I think, was pretty accurate. She said, if you're a wrestling fan, you'll love it. And if you're not, you'll like it. So,
okay, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there are places to go to see funnier people. Like I don't try to claim that I can outdo Louis C.K. on stage, but if you love wrestling and you want to hear funny stories about people that you like and a show that you love, then this is the place to go.
So you mentioned this before. So wrestling really has always had an important element of comedy, and I'm not just talking about an Al Snow match. So you think of managers from bygone eras, Freddie Blassie, Lou Albano, and then Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, and even today Vicky Guerrero. All of them are spouting outrageous, often hilarious stuff. So could you talk a little bit about how comedy is, kind of permeates the wrestling business?
Oh yeah, I think it has to, especially when the show is 3 hours long. It's got to be a good blend of action and drama and humor has a definite place. I mean, for all the the aura of the Attitude Era, as far as being cutting edge and and I don't want to say violent, but we'll say violent. There was actually a lot of funny stuff that went on. A lot of funny stuff. I mean, that's where I got a big break. When I was a commissioner, I was able to play off great comedic foils like Kurt Angle and Edge and Christian and Pat Patterson, Gerald Briscoe. Like it was just a way to lighten the show up, because if everything's dark and everything's heavy and everything's action-packed and impactful, then it comes to a point where none of it means anything. So you try to break it up, and comedy is one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah. So there are a number of wrestlers out there doing comedy now. You obviously, Roddy Piper has, King Kong Bundy has in the past. John Morrison is trying his hand at it. And in the Washington area, there's a former indie wrestler named Quasi who does stand-up comedy. So why are all of a sudden a lot of wrestlers doing stand-up, and are any of them funny?
Well, let me see. I've worked with Colt Cabana. He's Colt was with me when I did Baltimore 3 years ago, and Colt was very good. I'm going to do a show with Roddy Piper in November that's kind of exclusive. It's not exclusive to the Day of the Dead convention. Other people can buy tickets, but you have to have a ticket to the convention. And then in that case, I'll try to gear my stuff around, horror movies. But I think anybody, I don't want to say anybody, but I mean anybody in the way that you say anybody can play Little League and be okay at it to some extent. I mean, almost anybody can, if they have some stage presence and some material, can entertain an audience to an extent. It's whether or not it's worth making the trip out and worth making money, and what kind of a time you have. So I haven't seen. I did it with Bruce Pritchard. I did it with Colt. I haven't seen some of the guys who are out there doing it, but I imagine that I've been successful enough, especially in the UK, and had a nice run in Montreal, where other guys are doing the same thing they did when my book did well. Like, hey, if he can do it, we can do it. So I'll be to blame for the inundation of wrestling comics. Within 5 years, everybody will be doing it.
Mick, you also have a book that's coming out. I believe it's called A Most Miserable Christmas with
Yes.
the emphasis on the word Miz.
Right.
So there's some vaguely familiar characters in it. Could you tell me about it?
Yeah, and I won't brag about too much I've done, but I will brag about my children's books. I love doing them. It was one of my biggest things when I came back to WWE is that I wanted to do another children's book. It's been 8 years since I've done one. And it's not something, I could have done on my own. I mean, I could have self-published, but there would have been really difficult to find any audience. And WWE has been behind this. I actually, I pitched it with the story was completed. I had a piece of illustration done, or an illustration done, piece of art. So I was pitching it like as a finished story, not like have faith in me. And they found a great publisher, DK Publishing. We found a really good artist named Josh Adams, who took over when Jerry the King Lawler he just wasn't going to be able to do it all the work in time. And it's really good. I mean, I gave the second copy of the book to Miz, the first one I kept for my kids. And when I saw him last Monday, he was like, man, he goes, I thought it was going to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be that good. It's really it's a good story.
Just don't tell me he said it was awesome.
He did not say it was awesome. They would have lacked authenticity there. And he didn't yell it either. But our pre-reader, who does the pre-reading for the publisher, and then makes comments, said, and she was not a wrestling fan, but her comment was, this is a book that parents will enjoy reading to their kids as much as kids enjoy, listening to it. So if someone's got school-age WWE fans, it's a really good gift idea.
So tell us a little bit about the book. So Miz obviously is playing a role in it.
Oh, Miz is himself as a little kid. I created a fictional area called Rescal Lane in 2001 where the WWE superstars and divas live as small children. The hero of my story, the unlikely good guy, is CM Punk, who puts Miz back into his place, but it's not likely Punk will be touting the book on the air, but he makes for a great kid's character also.
You're watching Inside the Squared Circle. I'm Will Dunham, and I'm joined by Mick Foley.